The global empire that is America is debt-driven. It's a financial empire. And once you leave the United States, you see it more clearly how it works in other countries. And Max and Stacy have been reporting on this now for many years. Stacy and myself both met as expats. We had both been living out of the country for many years. And so we came together and were able to speak really on the same wavelength about kind of seeing the U.S. from this perspective of living outside of the U.S. And I think that's why our financial reporting had an edge to it, because we were able to put it into context of the global economy and the way other people see it, other countries see it. And I think that's kind of what I was getting at there. All the countries, starting in 1971, went on a pure fiat money standard. Europe, of course, has the European Central Bank and the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve Bank and the Bank of Japan. But they all kind of feed back to the mothership, that is the Federal Reserve Bank. Certainly after World War II, the U.S. took this global role as being the world's kind of banker. And as a result, everybody kind of answers to what's happening in the U.S. up until maybe things have gotten much different with the advent of Bitcoin, and geopolitics has changed somewhat. But yeah, you're right. Everyone is kind of in the same boat. So the stuff that we're reporting on would relate to everybody, has that understanding, and they want to know why they live in this fiat money system, why it's so crummy. And so it does relate to everybody because we're all living in a similar situation.
Wait a minute, everyone. Get ready for the ultimate crypto investing website, the Bitcoin Seller. It's your golden ticket to an exclusive insiders club. Expert predictions, on-chain data, and breaking news, all for you. Imagine all crypto insights landing in your inbox daily, like having your own expert team. Don't miss this VIP opportunity. Click the link and secure your spot. Join now and ride the crypto roller coaster with the Bitcoin Seller.
The purchasing power of fiat money all over the world continues to decline. And people are starting to feel the inflation, even at the mothership country in the U.S. Inflation is really starting to rage.
Yeah.
And we see the wealth and income gap spread all over the world, and we see poverty rates increasing. That's a result of the fiat money system. So the tricks are not really working, and we see it on the ground. There's a lot more social unrest. And I think that's what we would attribute to the fiat money system and the central banking system more than any political aspect. This is really the result of all this money printing.
I would also add that I am not very surprised because, look, you have perfect money that is Bitcoin, and yet there are also like a million shitcoins, let's call them that.
Yeah.
And the reason why those exist is because of that fiat mentality. That is the majority of the population will always be like that. They will take the airdrops. They will take the student debt forgiveness. They will take the Biden bucks. They will take those free checks. They will take the PPP loans. They will do all that stuff, and that's what they like, and that keeps them in that system, and that keeps that system afloat. And so I'm not surprised that it exists because, look, I just saw a headline that Joe Biden was considering a help to buy sort of scheme. Now, this is a scheme that will help 500,000 Americans buy their home. Well, Max and I were living in London back after the first financial crisis when, of course, Satoshi in the Genesis block put Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. Well, around that same time, they introduced a help to buy scheme soon after that. And it was called Help to Buy, and the taxpayer would fund for a lucky few individuals 20% of their deposit for their properties because the property prices were too high because of all the money printing from QE to bail out the banks. So, that's the system. That's the system that most people like. If they can get a free home off the taxpayer, they'll take the free home. Many people in crypto, very few people in Bitcoin took those PPP loans, right? There was a whole, anybody who took more than $100,000, I believe, were made public in the U.S. So remember, these were free loans. They were loans that you didn't actually have to pay back. Well, look at the number of billionaire crypto folk that took those loans. This is what they do. That's their mindset. So it doesn't surprise me.
The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's former head of Internet Enforcement has warned about investing in spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, ETFs, which the SEC is expected to approve on Wednesday. He cautioned that spot Bitcoin applicants are nothing more than an opportunistic cartel of fee-sucking billionaire financial behemoths who have the audacity to design and manufacture a product to allow more investors to experience financial ruin and incalculable risk, just so they can once again line their pockets with fiat. Let's continue our discussion.
Right. Well, we've called it the global insurrection against banker occupation, or GIABO. We coined that phrase on our show maybe 7 years ago, and it came after Occupy Wall Street. Remember, Occupy Wall Street was really the first time activists targeted Wall Street and targeted the money centers as being the source of problems. And that meme, that idea has grown ever since. People starting to understand that it's the bankers, it's the money, it's the central bankers, it's the Ron Paul ideas that have been talked about for many years. And to your point about, looting becomes a way of life. I know Stacy refers to the Bastiat quote about this, and it bears repeating. It's so true. Looting essentially becomes a way of life, and it becomes normalized. And so, or I would say, I've said in interviews before, where if you took fraud out of the American system, there would be virtually no economy left. It's a economy based on fraud, built on fraud, and without the fraud, there would be very little left. It's a mechanism to encourage fraud.
I would also add to that, of course, mentioning Argentina and then the U.S. and Europe, is that the Ponzi scheme nature of it means that, of course, the further you are from the money printing center, and there is only the U.S. dollar, right, in the fiat world. Everything else is based off of that, like trades against the U.S. dollar. So the U.S., what you see there, like they're just entering the debt forgiveness stage for the young people. What you saw in Argentina was that Milei won because of the young people. The young people are not the ones that get the money printing first, and all the debt and all the schemes that have been plundering Argentina for the last 20, 30 years has all gone to the boomers. Well, the same thing has happened in the U.S. and Europe, but the U.S. is able to prolong it longer because they have the money printer. They have the number one money printer, and so they could start, you see it in the U.S. with the discharging of the student debts. Every week or two, there's another new round of debt forgiveness for millennials and Zoomers, right? So Argentina and Europe can't do that so easily like the U.S. can. And I think that's why you're seeing like massive political shifts in places like Europe and Argentina first. The U.S. has a higher tolerance. They'll be the last fiat man standing. And I think that's bad for them in a way. I think they're going to be the last ones to, I guess the meek shall inherit the earth. It's like they'll inherit the earth that they've created, that their fiat debts have created.
Yeah, to add on to that point, in a recent conversation, an interesting point came out in that the world seems to be entering into this fourth turning, this idea, this convergence of various cycles at the end of kind of a nasty or beginning of a nasty period. But there seems to be one country that's the first to emerge from the fourth turning, and that is El Salvador. El Salvador had already went through its horrendous multi-decade collapse, and starting with the election of President Bukele in 2019, it has now emerged. It's emerging from that. So this is what makes El Salvador so interesting, is that it's really the first out of the box to lead the world in a way that people used to associate with the United States and other countries. But actually, El Salvador is becoming a world leader because it's already had the tough times. It now has the leader in President Bukele, and it is now showing the way, which is why we're here, really, because we want to be a part of that.
Former U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, official John Reed Stark blasted spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, ETFs, in a lengthy post on social media platform X Sunday. Stark is currently president of cybersecurity firm John Reed Stark Consulting. He founded and served as chief of the SEC Office of Internet Enforcement for 11 years. He was also an SEC enforcement attorney for 15 years. Amid a horrifically corrupt and criminal global crypto marketplace and a crypto ecosystem formulated into a toxic speculative cocktail of mathematical computational blather, affinity fraud, and the greater fool theory, the SEC will reportedly approve the offering and inception of a Bitcoin spot ETF. What a crock, the former SEC official opined. He proceeded to highlight the cataclysm of a Bitcoin spot ETF. Firstly, he stressed that a spot Bitcoin ETF is yet another fee suck, emphasizing, Bitcoin spot ETF applicants are nothing more than an opportunistic cartel of fee-sucking billionaire financial behemoths who have the audacity to design and manufacture a product to allow more investors to experience financial ruin and incalculable risk, just so they can once again line their pockets with fiat. And more fiat? He further warned that cryptocurrency is one mammoth Ponzi scheme, noting that crypto is more expensive, more complex, and more risky than mainstream finance. In addition, Stark claimed that crypto fails as a financial panacea for the unbanked, because it's just another exemplar of predatory inclusion and affinity fraud, sadly peddled to dupe the disadvantaged and disaffected. The former SEC official also mentioned the myriad of major crypto bankruptcies of the past several years as well as tether minting. He also referenced the letter by Better Markets to the SEC warning of financial carnage and massive investor loss if spot Bitcoin ETFs are approved. The ex-SEC's Internet Enforcement Chief additionally described Bitcoin spot ETF promoters shill their empty-headed financial product as a means to usher in a new era of technological innovation. Moreover, he stressed, the very idea of a Bitcoin spot ETF remains a laughable concept, not only because it will create yet another Wall Street investor scam and fee suck of epic proportions, but also because a Bitcoin spot ETF is perhaps the most centralized crypto contraption conceivable. He added, in the cryptoverse, market manipulation is not only rampant and tolerated, but also encouraged. Fraud is not only rewarded, but also taught. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more daily updates. Remember, knowledge is power, and we're here to empower you on your financial journey. Until next time, happy investing.